I am so honored and excited to introduce this beautiful soul and compassionate and wise guide, Karmen Mesko. Karmen, I'm so excited for our conversation today. I always learn so much talking to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Emily, for having me. It's really a great honor and a big pleasure for me to be here and yeah, just chat a little bit about everything, right?
Yes, there's so much that I would love to explore with you today. For listeners, you are a medical doctor, an intuitive energy healer, and a quantum researcher. And you are now helping people through these quantum soul guidance sessions, as well as galactic astrology readings. And we're going to be exploring really your unique manifestation process today, as well as talking about some helpful tools and, you know, processes for people. But I would love to explore more about your story. You have such an incredible journey. And I'd love to just know more, since this is your first time on the show, I'd love to hear more about your experience, perhaps growing up and all the languages you speak, perhaps any of your astrology that you'd like to share, and, about your personal chart. And then I'd love to hear just how you made this huge transition from practicing Western medicine to the incredible work you're doing in the world today.
Yes, I mean, I would definitely love to do that. So, yeah, life actually throws some very big things my way, right? So I was being born in Germany. I was growing up in Germany, so that's why I speak German as a second, let's say, mother language. Originally, I'm from Slovenia, so this is my motherland, and my parents are also Slovenian, so that's my second language or first, let's say. And then there was I was living there for quite a long time, right? And there was always this intense curiosity in me, what is life all about, right? And specifically, I was so completely fascinated by the human being, not just by the human body, but by the human being as a whole. And at that moment in time, I wasn't so aware of other realities, let's say. So my first logical step was to go and study medicine. And because it was not merely, primarily because I wanted to understand how the human is functioning. The more I loved it. So when we came, also, I remember myself in elementary school, when we started to talk about atoms, I was like, this was my thing, I loved it completely. I was feeling like a little bit of an alien because nobody was so keen on atoms, right? Also on genetics. The first time I heard about these tiny little plasmids, so these are the circular genetics in bacteria that can be transferred from one another. I was really completely mind blown, and I really loved to study all of that. So yes, I just did it, right? On top of that, what was needed. So it was completely logical to me actually to go and study medicine, although I must say I didn't feel at home there at all. It was something completely different than I expected. Now I understand why it was completely different, because I have memories from how things are actually built, right? And not how we as humans perceive that the human body is being built, right? And there was this huge gap between what I was learning and what I was intuitively and innately knowing somehow, in my body memory, in my cells, in my genetics. And this gap just couldn't be, I couldn't, at that time I couldn't find the, how to say, the bridge between the two. And also when I started to work with patients, it took quite a bit of a heavy toll on myself because I'm heavily empathic. I'm one of these high sensitive people, really empathic to the bones or even more, And when I was walking down the aisles in a hospital, I could feel every single story of these people walking past me. And again, at that time, I didn't understand what's going on with me, right? And I was choosing a profession that somehow I could remove myself a little bit of this intensity of, let's say, emergency rooms and this really intense, heavy emergency situations. So I was, but also because I was so drawn with the sciences that I decided to go and study genetics, right? And right now, I also understand why I went this path, because on a higher dimensional level, I am a geneticist, right? Uh, you know, I don't even know how to say that. It's a blueprinter geneticist. So really working with the blueprints of human genetics, not just the human body. Oh, I didn't know that back then, right? But nonetheless, it still didn't feel right. There was still this call of my soul, and somehow it started to push me even harder, in the sense that I really got sick, in the sense I really got depressed in one moment in time, right? Because I just couldn't ignore what that it really didn't feel right anymore for me. So at that moment in time, it was really interesting because me and my husband were really wanting to leave the country. I don't know why. We just had this real intense urge. We want to go somewhere else. We want to explore something else. And somehow both of us manifested the move to Switzerland. Switzerland was always the dream country of myself and also my husband. And yes, we moved here, and I quit my job in genetics, and for the first time in my life, I actually had the time to fully focus on myself. And it's now more than 8 years that we are here in Switzerland. And I really now I had the time to really dive deep into all of that. And there was a very specific moment in my lifetime that I remember, and I always will remember it. Well, I first started to meditate and I did some breath work, and one of a sudden, a lightning bolt struck me literally into my third eye. It was such intense light. I thought I was being hit by a lightning bolt, really. But it was an awakening call, right? My soul just said, you know what? Let's start working now. So, yeah, that's that's part of the path. And then it continued, right?
So, had you been very like into meditation and spirituality prior to that, period of time of meditating?
Actually, I started meditating quite a bit earlier than this lightning strike came, uh, because I needed to calm down my nervous system, right? Being highly sensitive, empathic person in the medical field is really heavy on us. So I really was working hard on centering myself. So meditation wasn't so foreign to me. I was really meditating every day. But there was this something shifted in this moment in time. I don't know, maybe it was divine timing or probably a higher orchestration, right? Where the time was right for me to look deeper. And I remember I was also reading at that point, completely changed my whole view of medicine. And this
What were
opened
you
up,
reading at that point?
excuse me,
What were you reading then?
Bruce Lipton's Biology of Belief.
Mm.
And this was just so mind-blowing. And I just said, okay, let's dive deep into that. And I was going through the systems of the body. I was exploring spirituality through the body. As I said, I was meditating, then I was doing a lot of body work in the sense of releasing trauma that was in my body, also trying to remember specific memories out of my body, then also doing hypnotic sessions with some very skilled people. And what was funny at that point was that in one of these sessions, I could remember myself being in a blue body, really blue skin. I had blue skin, and I know I wasn't on Earth because the sky was violet, right? And there were many moons. There wasn't just one moon. And this was, again, one of these moments that was somehow breaking up, or let's say making a little crack in my belief systems and also in my perception of my reality, so that a little bit of a different information could come through and I could explore this new information I haven't had access to before. Yeah.
Wow, it's incredible to hear about your journey, and I can see from a higher perspective, why your soul would choose that path and how interesting to have all that, training and knowledge and then just be using it in such a beautiful and unique way.
Thank you.
Yeah. Was that an organic process that unfolded, or like, because I just imagine leaving, you know,
Yeah, I mean, it was organic, but there was a lot of work involved in it, right? The point is that once you open up yourself to new awareness, you cannot unsee it, right? Once you see something, you cannot unsee it. And there's always this question, this nagging question, is there more? What is behind these veils? What is behind the perception of me being just my thoughts? Is there anything more than that? And once I started to ask these questions, actually the path just started to unfold. But yes, there was a lot of work involved because I needed to remove all the layers that I have been building. So, for a very long time, for example, being a medical doctor is really intense training. And you are being set up such automatic belief systems that you can also diagnose people very quickly, sometimes if there is no time for that. So it is, sometimes you don't even understand that you have a belief system, and if you have it, it's actually on your way of growth. So I really needed to look into every single of my belief systems, so tiny step by tiny little step, one of a time. And it was really tedious work, but every single belief that I could change opened up new ways, new doors, new perceptions, new awareness. And at times it was so intense and so accelerated that I just couldn't keep up. It was really interesting.
wow. Yeah, what an exciting path. And I can see just, you as a guide bringing also such grounded, practical wisdom combined with, concepts that really expand people's awareness, is such a beautiful blend and helpful, I think, for people to receive that information. And I'm so excited to together today to really explore some of the unique processes that you've been bringing forward and guiding people on. Um, but before we dive into that, there's one question that I wanted to ask you. It's something that I saw actually posted on your Instagram, which was around multitasking
Yeah, yeah.
and
There's no
how,
such there's no such thing.
yeah, can you
Mm.
explain that a little bit? Because I will just share that I am definitely one who is a multitasker and perhaps will want to steer away from this tendency, but maybe explain for listeners why this can be so problematic.
Yes, I would love that. Yeah, actually, from a higher perspective, when we really dive into the awareness that we are conscious creators and that we are only and merely, I mean, we are always focusing through a single point of focus into this reality, right? And there's an every single moment there can be only one focus in this reality. So you cannot split your focus on two. You can broaden your focus, but you can never split it, right? And if we know this, when we are focused in this body, if we know this, then we know that in every single moment we can focus only on one task. Shifting rapidly between different tasks, and by that we are losing momentum, because we are going into this direction, and then the next moment we try to go into that direction, and what happens is there is this split between the two. It's not actually a split, it's just a very quick shifting of our focus between the two tasks, and we lose momentum. That's why multitasking is not such a great idea. But yes, we've all done it. I've done it as well, with little children. There's just no way to stay focused. I mean, my children are a little bit bigger right now, but there's just no way to focus only on one thing. But this is actually what makes us master creators, when we can keep our focus on one thing, because this brings momentum. This brings the momentum to the idea, so to the thought, as well to the emotion that is pushing this idea into one direction, right?
I love that. And it's such the perfect segue to really explore this process of helping people to become conscious creators of their reality. And we're going to do something really special today, which is really to go through step by step and explore this process. So where should we begin?
I don't know. Let's start at the beginning, because I think the process is quite linear. Although sometimes it can happen at one moment that we realize the whole process as one. But yes, one of the first steps that we need to achieve to become conscious creators is really to become aware that we are one, right? I think that's the biggest hurdle that we need to take, because we are usually not aware that we are creating everything all around us, right? There's nothing that we don't create. Everything is created by us. And when we go into quantum science, this observer effect, right? There's always someone who is observing quantum reality. So the quantum field, which is full of unlimited possibilities, but they are not manifest. And you need someone to observe a situation, to observe a moment in time. And through this observation, there's something happening, right? One thing that I want to bring actually in is that it's not our minds that does the observation. Is actually something of essence. This is our divine essence, right? That is actually observing the event, as well as our minds who are observing the event. So it's double observation. There comes up the question, why is it so hard to manifest instantaneously? Because there's this tendency that we observe similar events, right? We have this mind that has learned through experiences, through learning, or really through going through life. Our minds, or let's say the brains, who are actually not making the mind, but they are the filters through which our minds can be filtering reality. Our brains are being hardwired in patterns. If you imagine us living our lives without any of this patterning, for example, I would live in a new country without knowing any language. We are lost, completely lost, right? Therefore, this patterning is actually absolutely necessary for us to be able to live somewhere. As well, as we are never thinking about how we are breathing. This is as well our innate patterning of the brain, that is saying to the body, okay, let's take a in breath and now breathe out, right? And that's absolutely normal. That's part of creation. But the hard part becomes here that it's so hardwired that it takes a bit of an effort, or sometimes even a lot of effort, to change this patterning. So, as I said, first we need to become aware that we are conscious creators and unlimited on top of that. The other one is that we need to find first, let's say, breaks or little cracks in this patterning, in this habituation, in these habitual programs, how we perceive reality. Once we get to this point, once we have these little breaks, like for example, I had these little breaks when I got hit by this light. I completely didn't expect that, right? And I didn't even hear about people having these experiences so far. So this was one of these moments where one of my um, habitual perceptual layer was being opened. And through this opening, there could flood in new information. And once we get this new information into our system, then we have two possibilities. One is we shut down because it's just too much, right? Which very often happens because we need to really trust the process as well. Then the other way is, or the other opportunity, following that thread of information. And this here again, focus is here really important, that we just continue this way.
Carmen, may I summarize what I feel like I'm hearing you say,
Yes.
which is that
Mhm.
we need to create a pattern interrupt so as not to create with past outdated programs, but to be sort of in the present moment and to create a new way of consciously creating. And so to be able to create that space where you're totally maybe in a place of neutrality and not pulling from
Mhm.
the past way of creating or any of those outdated programs, that's where the opportunity area is to really be able to attune to those moments.
Yes, exactly. That's it. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So a pattern interrupt, I want to just explore this a little bit more so listeners can
Mhm.
really get this is, could be meditation, could be just really dropping into our heart center. How would you define that for us?
Yes, there are many different ways. One is definitely meditation, then breath work, really intense breath work. Then we have also hypnotic techniques. But what is underlying under all of these techniques is actually that we are changing our brainwave patterns, right? We step out of the beta brainwave pattern and go really deeper into alpha, delta, theta, or even gamma. And this is really changing which of the brain's active centers stay active, right? When we move out of the beta brainwave patterning and we go into alpha or delta, we really somehow switch off our neocortex, and the neocortex is actually the architect of reality here, right? And yes, it can be through meditation, it can be also through a walk in nature. It's all these beautiful places where you get inspired. Where do you get your inspiration from? Are you swimming? Are you in the woods? Are you're playing beautiful music with your singing bowls? I'm quite sure you are in the flow when you are there, right? This is really the state of flow. It's different for everybody. For me, for example, it's meditation, but I learned now also drop into these brainwave patterns almost on a moment to moment basis if I need it. And that's also the way through which we can start to perceive parallel realities, or and diving deep into intuitive knowledge, and through this intuitive knowledge bringing forth new information that is not seen by the beta brainwave state, right?
So I love that you just shared that. And, it really brings up this opportunity, which is that you're able to access that higher state of consciousness, the higher state of
Mhm.
brainwaves, you know, in an instant. And I feel like there's an attunement to that, but in that process, it's just endless possibilities. And for me, when you're describing that, it's that feeling of peacefulness, of expansion that emerges for me in meditation, or sometimes when I'm in that flow state, as you're describing. And it's like almost like I can feel that my brainwave, I'm not measuring it, right? But I can feel it, and I can feel that shift that's taking place.
Yeah, that's so beautiful because, yes, we don't need to measure it. We actually can feel it with our bodies. And that's the best.
Yeah, and I feel like what you're sharing is so helpful because it's this ability to really cultivate that so that whatever is taking
Mhm.
place, even if there maybe is, a moment that feels um, tumultuous, or that there is a little turbulence, that you can bring yourself back to that place to
Mhm.
create
Mhm.
anew.
Exactly. The challenging thing in this, let's say, challenging situations is actually to remember that there is this safe place, this peaceful, calm space. And really, I would invite everybody to really think about it. What is the process that is always bringing you into this peace, peaceful state? And really trying to remember also in very challenging situations, okay, I can take a few deep breaths and I'll be there, or I can have a walk in nature and I just really reset my whole nervous system and I'll be really back in the flow. And this flow state is really nourishing. It is not just that we are accessing a higher state of consciousness, it is actually allowing vital force energy to nourish our bodies deeply. That's also why disease happens, because we are cutting ourselves off from this vital force energy. And this vital force energy needs to flow through our bodies every single moment of time. The more we are in stress, the more we are constricted, the less of this energy can flow through our bodies. That's why it's so important to find these places, or let's say these moments of peace and calmness, from stress to nourishment.
Hmm. So, Carmen, what would you say then would be, the next step of this process? Meaning, like, it sounds like what you're describing is almost sacred geometry, in the sense of the vibration that we're in allows us
Mhm.
to like crystallize our reality into place. I just wonder if you could touch on that a little bit more, about how that brings forth new realities, and perhaps maybe how you've
Mhm.
seen this shift personally or with clients, so we can like feel an example of this.
Yeah. Yes, once we become aware that we are able to access these different states of beings and also the unlimited quantum field, right? Then we also see that it really is a vast space of possibilities. And when we understand that what we observe is what becomes real, is really we become very cautious about what we are focusing on, what we are observing, and what we want to call into our reality. Because I want maybe here to make the distinction between law of attraction and law of mirroring. Basically, both are speaking about the same thing. Although I think the law of mirroring is a little bit more concise, precise here, because we really can see our reality. And by that, I mean everything that is beyond our eyeball, not even even our eyeballs, right? Absolutely everything. And it is mirrored in our external world. And when we see, let's say, some things in our reality that we don't like, we need to ask ourselves, or that would be a conscious creator who would say, okay, how did I create that? Why is this in my reality? where there's a blind spot. What am I doing that this is being present in my reality? And then I would go back and really start to observe my thought processes or beliefs or really ingrained habits. It's not just beliefs, it's also about habits, because what are habits? Habits are automatic beliefs that we are automatically just executing. And I would do reverse engineering. So I observe an event and say, okay, why is this event in my reality? And there are basically two possibilities. One is that we as a human being have created this possibility, or let's say this manifestation. The other one is that our soul has chosen a bit conflicting for us as humans also to accept,
Can you
because
say the
there will
second
be.
one again, Carmen, because you broke up a little bit?
Okay. The second one is that the soul has chosen something for us, right? And sometimes we get a little bit conflicted about these situations in the sense, okay, why would such a horrible thing happen to me, right? It can happen, definitely. Everybody has really hard moments in their own lives. And sometimes it is something that our soul has chosen on a higher level. So we need also to watch the manifestation process, not only as a human way of creating, but also our souls are creating here, right? Co-creating with us. Sometimes if we don't listen to the guidance because we just have ideas, or maybe we have been programmed to believe in some things, then our soul starts to send messages. And if we don't listen to these messages, it becomes even harder and harder to not hear these messages, right? And so yes, um, so it's always a combined manifestation between the soul and us as human beings. But as I said, I would always, if I have this manifested reality, ask myself, where did it come from? And if it's a habitual pattern on my human level, I would work on it, right? If it's a soul level manifestation, then I will connect with my soul and ask, okay, what is the teaching here? What do I need to learn? Or do I need to course correct? Where do you want to guide me to?
Mhm. I love that so much, and I find it so helpful because it's really inviting this level of, you know, just attuning to what we're experiencing in our lives, and really asking the question and getting curious, like, why is this happening? On what level did I call this experience in? What can I learn from it? And I feel like the key here is not to be in judgment about it, but just to be in a place of curiosity, of really being curious about all the experiences, situations, people we're magnetizing in our lives.
Yes. Yes, so beautifully said.
Yeah, so I'd love to ask you about how emotions play into this, and like elevated emotions, because we hear about that a lot with quantum manifestation. And how would you
Yes.
explain that?
Yes. Um, Also, with emotions, I've actually started to understand that there are two levels to this whole concept, I would say, right? Mm, we are talking about elevated from our divine self, guiding us into specific directions that we chose for ourselves on a higher level, not here on this human level, right? But then there are also these other emotions that sometimes, not sometimes, I would say on a daily basis, we feel frustrated, sometimes even sad or angry, and all of that. And this is then how we are perceiving reality around us. So it is either a harmonic between the two, right? The inspiration that is flowing in and what we are observing, or a disharmony between the two. And if it's in harmony, even for example, if our soul says, this is not good for you, and I observe it like that, okay, that's not good for me, I'm not going to drop into sadness, even though I could. Yes, of course, if I'm really attached to this outcome, then I'll get sad. but this is the message of my soul. Why are you sad about that? It is actually something that's not good for you. And if I align with my soul's message, right? If I really truly listen to my guidance and intuition, then I'll instantly feel like, oh, something heavy lifted from me. I know now which way to go. So emotions are a key element to listen. We really truly need to learn how to listen to them. And also, what I find very important is not to wait until it gets a lot of momentum. Really start to listen to these tiny little bits of, little nudges. Like, oh, this feels a little bit uncomfortable. So what's behind that? Don't wait that you feel completely disconnected from your vision. Really listen to the little nudges. Okay, I don't feel comfortable in this situation. What's going on, right?
Yes, I love that. So it's really like attuning to our emotions as sacred signals for us.
Yes.
And then, you know, if there is a new reality that we're envisioning, whatever that is, like maybe it's moving to a new country, or maybe it's like, attracting a partner into your life, or something like this. Like, would you is it just focusing on the vibration that you're desiring to feel, and maybe the emotions that accompany that reality, or what does that look like?
Yes, that's a really great question. Um, there are two parts to this equation, right? One is that it is uh, favorable if this new reality, the dream that we have, is in alignment with our soul's intentions, right? That's actually the first and most with our soul, we are not going to be that successful, right? We will be, but it will take a lot of effort, a lot of pushing against things, a lot of really putting energy into something that is not going that well, right? Then the second part is, once we know it is aligned with our soul essence, really what I usually do, I go into a deep meditation and I really ask my soul to give me some sort of I wouldn't say visual, I would say image of this reality that is the best outcome for me in this moment in time. By that, I mean that I attune myself to get images from my soul, and my soul is communicating directly to me through these images. These images are not always visual. This can be knowing, just instantly knowing, okay, that's the thing I need to do. Or just instantly feeling in the whole body, you get this, truth bumps, right? Or through truth chills, where you light up completely and okay, that's the thing I need to do, right? Or even sometimes we hear something, and once we get this confirmation, okay, that's the way I need to go, or I would also, that's the best way for both of us, because we are co-creating, me and my soul, right? That's the best way to go. Then all of a sudden, first of all, yes, we get this image. We What I usually do, I stay with this image for as long as I feel very excited about it. As long as I feel like, oh my gosh, this really feels so good, I just stay with that image. But then it is also wise to let it go. When we start to cling to this thing, to this to the dream that we want to manifest, then we are into a way that is not serving us. Um, and the other thing is, it really is important to not build, let's say, an energy counter momentum that is going to draw energy out of the manifestation. So, for example, if I know that this dream is possible for me, and I start to question it, okay, when is it coming? Do I really believe that it's coming? Oh, I don't deserve that. Or, oh my gosh, I'm so not worthy of this magnificent dream I just had. Then we are definitely slowing down the momentum of manifestation, right? And also, one of the important things, I think this is one of the things that we often forget about, is inspired action. if I didn't pack my suitcases and moved to Switzerland, I wouldn't be here, right? If I didn't do the necessary things, but they felt really right, although I was feeling scared of my because of my belief systems, I knew that's the right thing to do. So yeah.
Wow, this is so beautiful. I just want to summarize because there's so much that you just shared. So, the first thing that it's really I haven't heard before is this suggestion of really uh, getting wisdom and imagery from the soul. So inviting the soul into the
Mhm.
manifestation process to show, to guide, to give imagery to help with, what is the next step or what does it look like, and to really to make sure that it's in alignment with the soul and the higher self.
Mhm.
And then the second thing that you shared is really not to doubt it when it's in process, like when
Mhm.
it's already in your field. It's like, we can have the thinking mind or doubts that arise, and that it's really contra, um, you know, effective to what we're creating and
Mhm.
calling in. And then the third thing is
Mhm.
really taking inspired action.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Love that so much. Yeah, this is so beautiful. It's so helpful to have these steps and this process to really remind of the build, almost like the building blocks of
Mhm.
becoming a conscious creator. And something that I wanted to ask you about, relating to this is about ascension. And
Mhm.
for you, what that means and how it relates to our physical bodies.
Yes. For me, basically, ascension means really truly becoming aware of that we are fully co-creating and creating what we are observing. That's the first thing. The second thing is what, in essence, for me, ascension means is really peeling away all the layers that limit us in every single specific way. It can be mind programming. It can be habitual emotional responses. It can be even not going for the walk that we plan doing every single day, but that just don't do it, right? And how is this related to the body? It is the more we stick to the old patterning and limitations, the less of the energy, the vital force energy, can flow through our own bodies. And our bodies are actually the stargate to higher consciousness. They are also, and I think mostly we are not aware of that, we are able to ascend the bodies completely physically, in the sense that if we really are aware of how the technology is working and really can stay out of the slowing vibrational patterning, in the sense we really stay in high vibrational fields, then we can accelerate our own physical shift out of this reality. It really is, it is complete physics, quantum physics. The more energy you can draw into your own atoms, the atoms will start to spin quicker and quicker, and one of a sudden they are not vibrating on the same level as this reality is built. So the shift is going to happen, right? But the problem is that the problem. The limitation right now that we are facing is that we are living in a society that is not supporting that. And by that, I mean that we are being, it's hard to eat clean, right? Really hard. You need to be very cautious about what you're eating, what you're drinking, what you're thinking about, what you're scrolling, through which apps you're scrolling, what is coming through your eyes, also what are you putting on your skin. Everything is affecting our vibrational rate. But also, um, it's hard for us to understand that on a deeper level we could transcend all of that, and there are still people right now in this moment in time who are actually trying to attain, it's called the rainbow body ascension. And they are monks in Tibet, for example, not just in Tibet, I'm quite sure there are many, many more of them, who are really through deep, deep meditation and really taking care at which level they are vibrating, they can transcend and take their bodies with them. And this is possible for humanity, but we are not just exactly there yet.
Yeah, it's a journey that we're going on, and what you're sharing is so exciting. Honestly, like sometimes I have moments where I feel like in this physical body, like, it feels dense. And yet there is
Mhm.
a knowing that our physical temples are these extraordinary, miraculous pieces of technology. And it's so cool that you have the science and also the quantum understanding of how to really um, ascend in the body, because sometimes we think about
Mhm.
ascending out of the body, but it's really this level of embodiment and really appreciating the physical vessels that we're in this incarnation. And it sounds like from what you're sharing um, is that it's all of the ways that we absorb. So it's getting light into our atoms and our cells, and what we're eating, what we're consuming, whether that's technology or on our cell phones or anything like this. It's like it all plays a role.
Yes, yes, so beautifully said, really. And what I want to add here is actually, as you also so beautifully said, that it is about bringing the higher energy into the body. It's not as ascending out of the body. And this is also the process we are going through right now. It is about divinating this physical vessel that we have. And this is also part of the ascension process that we are part of here right now. And it's not the first time that it's happening here on Earth as well. There are also other star systems that had done this several times already. But here on Earth, there have been whole collectives who achieved that, right? For example, there were Mayan cultures who just disappeared, right? There were whole cities of Mayan people who just from one day to the other disappeared completely. And they were shifting realities. They came from third density or dimension, let's say, into fifth dimension. So it is a practice. We just need to bring it back to, let's say, us, all of us. There are many people who are practicing this already. It just needs to become a little bit more common, yeah, commonly talked
Yeah.
about as well.
I'd love to hear, some of the tools and the practices that you are most attuned to in this now moment. I know for me, like as you're sharing, what it brings up immediately is breath work. That practice has been really
Mhm.
transformative in my life, and I think it's something about bringing in the breath and, oxygen and light into the body that has a
Mhm.
cellular shift. I also find that sound vibration has a similar impact on the physical body as well. But I'd love to know, even from an eating perspective and a water perspective, just some of the things that you're most attuned to in this now moment.
Yeah, actually, it's a whole process, I would say, and it's a long path for us here. Um, Usually, I think it starts with eating clean and also drinking living water, really eating living food, which means food that has grown on earth, in earth, not on this artificial huge plantage. Um, Also, that has got a lot of light, because by consuming that vegetables, we are also consuming directly light and information. The same is true for water. For example, for myself, I drink only spring water, And this, I know, is completely living water. So it's structured, living, it has information, it has light, it has life, it has consciousness. And I drink it because I know this water is, if it, when it comes into my body, it is instantaneously exchanging all the non-living water, because this water has a different spin to it. It has a different informational blueprints to it, right? And once it comes into the body, is actually facilitating the incoming information from higher vibrational dimensions, and it can then easily flow to the structures that it's informing. Basically, this means to DNA, right? And on a sub-DNA level to the atoms and subatomic structures. So water is definitely a very important, living being, honestly, that we are bringing into our bodies. Breath is definitely very important because it is the energetic force that is spinning our Merkaba, the light body that we have around our bodies. And it is the spin of this Merkaba is directly correlated with the breath. So if we have a constricted breath, if we don't breathe freely, in a sense, okay, I really feel free, I can breathe with my full lungs, then also the spin is being, how to say, actually, it doesn't spin that quickly. The more we balance our breath, the more balanced is also our Merkaba. Then once we clean out, then one very important layer that we forget very often about is our minds and our emotions. I think that's the biggest hurdle here. Our minds and our emotions. We need to be very clean with our thoughts. And I think the most of us, everybody, honestly, we are underestimating the power of thought and emotion. For me, these are the basic tools. If there's no thought, there's no idea, there's no drive to create something new. If there is no emotion, there's no fuel for the idea to be manifested, right? And these are actually so second nature to our existence that we don't. But these are the and then once we get cleaned, but once we purify our thoughts and our emotions, we are able to draw more of the vital force energy into us. One of the important elements also in our bodies is Kundalini, right? This is also extremely powerful energy, but I would say that people need to be, or someone needs to be prepared for the awakening of the Kundalini, because it can be quite overwhelming. And what is the preparation for that? It is basically working with our thought processes and with our emotions. When we are really non-judgmental, when we are open, when we know what's going on, then a Kundalini awakening can be completely safe. And this is also one of the, I would say, necessary, almost, maybe not completely necessary, but very facilitating step that is opening us up to other dimensional realities, because it really is activating our third eye, so the pineal gland. And once the pineal gland is completely activated, we just perceive other realities without any problems.
And how would you describe activating Kundalini energy?
Um, there are two ways, right? One is spontaneous activation. And I think that's the safest, because people who get this activation spontaneously, they are ready to receive. They usually know what it is all about. It's not necessary that they have read about it. For example, when it happened to me, I didn't know that this is a Kundalini awakening, right? I just had a Kundalini awakening afterwards, but I haven't been destabilized by that because my mind was very stable at that point, right? So it is sometimes a remembrance, not sometimes, always actually a remembrance on a deeper soul level that this is going to happen. When we try to force Kundalini awakening, then sometimes there is a little bit of a tricky thing to do because not necessarily is everybody ready at that point, right? Yes, they know about it, and it is definitely on the path of this person, but maybe it's not exactly the right point
Mm.
time for it yet. But I would definitely encourage everybody who feels like, oh, I would love to experience a Kundalini awakening. It is something on your path. You just need to see and know that it needs quite a bit of a preparation. It's not just an overnight, yeah,
That makes
event.
sense. And so, and just in basic terms of describing what Kundalini energy is.
Mhm. Yes, actually, that's a huge reservoir of energy. I mean, it's not a reservoir, it is energy. It's a huge amount of energy that every single human being is carrying around in his first, some say first chakra, others say second chakra, right? So there's a discordance between where the exact location is. I say it is at the bottom of our spine, right? Why is this so important? Because when the Kundalini starts to awaken, it is actually traveling just around the spine, right? It is traveling around the spine, and sometimes it really feels like a snake progressing inside of you. And it is what it basically means is this energy is being awakened, and it is very, very divine and very raw in the sense that it can completely reset all the chakras on the way. So once this energy is touching one chakra, let's say the first chakra or the second chakra, this chakra is being cleaned out, readjusted, harmonized, and brought onto a higher level, right? All of that happens all at once. And if we are not ready for that, for example, if you didn't and everything is coming out there, right? Everything is being awakened, and you see yourself swimming in 10 traumas all at the same time. That's why it's not completely safe. That's why I think first would be really clean out the system, the energy system, the chakras specifically, right? And once it progresses through your whole chakra system, it attunes your chakra system to a new level, to a higher level through, and also because the spin becomes so accelerated, you are instantaneously able to perceive a bigger reality. It opens up a completely new awareness of a huge reality that was unseen before. And once it hits the third eye, it actually opens up a direct channel to your higher self, and not only to that, but also to other realities in the sense that we can start to communicate with other beings in other systems. Yeah.
Wow, thank you, Carmen. That's such a fantastic explanation of awakening Kundalini energy and so, so helpful. You've shared so many incredible tools to help us really ascend in our physical bodies and to feel more embodied. And so I'm just so grateful for all the wisdom that you've shared today. I do have one last question for you, but I'd love if you could share how people can find you and the ways that you support clients.
Yes, absolutely. I think the best way would be to just visit my website, which is karmenmd.com. On this website, I right now I'm actually more focusing on galactic astrology in starseed activation. And this website is under the same website / QSG, so Quantum Soul Guidance. And these are tailored sessions where I try to help people remember starseed information where they are originally coming from. Then I have a YouTube channel which is slowly growing, but still there will be my biggest focus this year. So it will be definitely a resource for people to find me, also to get new information, and all what I'm going to share. And also I'm in a process of putting all of this information related to the it's a big project because I really want to have it explained in a way that it is also applicable, right? So I hope it's going to be coming out till the end of this year, hopefully.
And
But
that's a
it's a
course
big
that
project.
that's a course that you're going to be offering.
This will be a combination. First, I'll go to write a book, and this book will be then the basic material for the course. And in this course, we are going to actually work with these different modalities to learn how to navigate quantum realities, then to manifest dreams, and also how to ascend our bodies, how to heal, how to keep it alive. I mean, not keep it alive, but keep it really vibrant and healthy, and how to then ascend with it. Yes, that's a bigger project that is in the making. Yeah.
Wow, I'm so excited for that. And I will definitely be on the lookout for that book. And just want to share with listeners about your YouTube channel because it's incredible. You have so many helpful and informative videos and conversations, and also such beautiful guided meditations that you lead people on. So we will definitely share a link to all of those resources in the show notes. This conversation has just been packed with so much beauty and wisdom. And, thank you so much for sharing from your heart and sharing just such a wealth of wisdom with us today. I also want to add that your one-on-one sessions I've experienced myself and are incredible. And you are, such a gift to humanity and beyond. So thank you for all you are